in game number 4, we will see less TCs than game number 3.
I thought you were going to say that if there's one thing that's certain, it's gonna be Ottomans winning this game as we head to an Ottoman mirror on Dry Arabia.
That's the thing, you gotta catch people off guard, man. Both things remain true here. So, of course, we are going to see the scouting clash in the center. Divine already kind of losing out there, right? The scout is out here without any sheep gathered. That can kind of matter because if we talk about Sapahi being mass later or fast castle timings, Madrissa does do a lot for your gathering, but you're going to have a lot of additional villages, right? Like Madrissa contains rather 4 villages. You're starting with over 20, so you're going to want to have that additional safe food at home.
Yeah, looks like a very similar setup than what we had in the Warring Islands game. One player rushing Feudal Age, that is B for the time being, with 10 villas on the minaret. And on the other side, Divine is delaying his Feudal Age to squeeze out Wheelbarrow before Age Up.
Yeah, I don't like that in this matchup. The reason is the military school access and the ability to switch over to Sapahi. One extra Sapahi can be kind of a game breaker, weirdly enough, especially if you're good at microing, which, not like B's, a pushover in that department. Looks like the spawns were good, by the way. It's something I always check for. I've seen most often berries can screw over the Generation Empire Wars. Sometimes the blacksmiths and the military school aren't together. Looks like both of them got a fairly generous spawn. I think B's is slightly better because there aren't trees blocking anything around the blacksmith influence, whereas Divine's does slightly clip his wood line. Okay, actually they're even, yeah. So Stone's blocking a corner, and then, like we said, on Divine's base, it's going to be wood blocking a corner.
Yeah, but it's very similar maps. Very defendable on both sides. Will be interesting to see if either of these players goes for some early walls. For now, Stone being mined on both sides, but Feudal Age is in a little quicker for B. Aside from that, it's essentially the same build. Minaret with quite a few villagers building them, and it was just Wheelbarrow before or after. That's the only deviation between the two players.
Yes, but that does mean that B can probably get like an extra unit. He should have been getting an extra unit out, right, on the production speed, but instead he went for a second TC here. Now, Divine hasn't got a scout in the back of the base. It's important he sniffs this out fast because, you know, when you see Ottomans gathering on the stone, you don't know 100% that they're going for TCs, right? It might just be the military schools. Divine instead has gone defensive. He's going to TC himself. And if you look at his vision, his scout is now only moving out, so he's going to know this info on a delay.
Yeah, second DC on the way for Divine. It's going to be positioned to the front. He's yet to even start scouting the base of B over here. You see, he's used both of his scouts in Dark Age to just try and collect sheep. And this is where he finds out that B is going to start walling himself.
But the scout already got through. The Spearmen are going to try to body block this, make sure he can't get through and see what's happening back here. But when you see B lining Spearmen up in this area, you know. Like, it's so obvious at this point that he's guarding something, and the only thing that he put back there is a TC.
The other thing is that, like, when you're walling up in a mirror matchup like this, you're playing a defensive game. The only way that it makes sense to play a defensive game is if you're trying to build an eco lead as the scout gets taken down.
What on earth would... I mean, this is... It's like, I have God vision, right? So in fairness, I definitely know. But, like, Divine has to suspect that you're both building spearmen. Why are his spearmen staying at home? Why are they staying back on that flank? Why are they walling in? Like, it kind of feels like one of those situations where the writing's on the wall. Maybe that's just me with God vision being a bit too, no crap, Sherlock, of course. But it does feel weird that he'd scout there blindly. And, I mean, you saw how deep he went, man. He had loads of times to turn back, but getting sniped out. I mean, vision is a very big advantage in this matchup because even if they both now fast castle off the back of this, you need to know what the switch is. You need to know if your opponent's going men-at-arms, are they going crossbows, so you can prep the counter.
Yeah, the big thing here is that even without seeing the town center directly, he probably anticipated that there's a second TC for B, simply because, as you said, if you play defensive in a mirror matchup, that means that you're trying to build an advantage that's not based on army value or combat, but something else that has to be eco.
Yeah. And, well, looking at the eco of these two players right now, I think it's pretty obvious who's going to kick a slightly faster castle timing. It's B. And This usually forces the opponent to immediately go into crossbows. Because you know how this works, right? Like, player who gets advantage gets the men-at-arms out first. Men-at-arms need to be addressed. But what I'd love to see from B is with a faster tech-up timing, him just, like, prepping Lancers or Sipahi. Because I think that could catch Divine off guard. I think he's just instinctually going to just cue the crossbows.
Oh, second scout goes down here, KP. That is
Oh,
bad
good
for
God.
Divine. He's going to be deprived of all vision, and now if B wants to go for anything surprising when it comes to the unit choice, he can easily afford this. Divine has no idea what's happening outside of his base.
Why does that sound familiar? I think we've said that before in this series. It's just tough, man. In mirrors especially, you can't be scout deficient. You can't lack that information. Mermaid is already on the way. Divine still hasn't got the food yet. It's about to get required amount, and it should be the Mermaid. Like this, I don't think in the mirror you can ever not go Mermaid here. But I think there's going to be like this panic phase. Like right now, my worry is that whole idea of B going into Knights is even better because Divine hasn't walled himself in at all. And he's playing 2 TCs, which means he's going to move away from safety fast.
Yeah, that's the same thing I was thinking about here. He's not walled in, it's wide open, and B is going to see that. He has vision on the Lumberjacks, he's going to see the Stone Mine. Everything is lying wide open. It's exactly what you want for a player playing with Lancers. And you're also walled in back at home, so you could just play no defense back at home, no army back at home, and just focus on the cavalry production, go for the raids. Remains to be seen if he does that, though.
Oh, wow, no, I think he's actually just going to go for a slow army. It's men-at-arms. Okay, so both producing men-at-arms. B did drop an archery range as well, so likely we see instantly add in the crossbows. He did get the Imam point. Now, this is a big deal. Divine lost map control, so B now gets to soak in the glory that is relics. Divine, because he's slowly generating men-at-arms, still a slow unit, I don't expect him to come out anytime soon, which means this play goes unpunished.
Yeah, it's a big thing here, and part of the equation here is how Divine lost the scouts, so he cannot even scout which direction those monks are going. He's got some spearmen. If he had some vision, he could maybe try to deny one of these relics, or 2 of these relics. But right now, he just cannot really venture outside of his base. Means that B should be able to secure at least 3 relics over here, perhaps more.
Looks like a 4 relic game to me. He already grabbed the one in the center. Should be going for, I'd say, the southern one next, and then the 2 north are too far away for Divine. But instead, I think, yeah, he's being a greedy son of a gun. He's actually going to go for the 1 in the back of Divine's base, and he's going to get away with it as well. And this is all just a knock-on effect of those scouts. I mean, imagine if he still had scouts available, you know what he would have done? He would have probably pumped the Imam points himself because he would have known where to go. But he couldn't afford to risk going out. As a result, he's probably going to get no relics in this game.
Yeah, this looks like a 5 relic game here for B. There is one more that Divine could maybe challenge, that is the one to the south. The other 2 all the way up north, that's going to be near impossible for Divine to contest.
Yeah, flip a coin on south or north, actually. They're like the same distance from his base. And it's just a case of whether B intercepts, right? For the time being, Divine has a spooky army, so B is going to give him a little bit of space here. They will both have that Imam AoE heal, so it does have another use. So what's key here is to get enough crossbows, right? Once you have about 10, the Imams can't really hang around these fights.
Yeah, Divine is walling himself up. Normally you would say, okay, I'm trying to build an eco lead, I'm going to play defensive, but here Divine is playing defensive, forfeiting all map control for B, and B is going to turn that into relic control, into sacred site control. And we're actually seeing something very similar to what we have seen in, let's say, game number 1 on King of the Hill, or even game number 2 on the Chinese Mirroring Warring Islands. Divine is playing very defensive, but he can't really afford to do it because his economy is going to be so much weaker than B's.
But it's like that classic thing we talked about in this series where Divine doesn't have that info. Someone on Warring Islands, people don't know when they're behind. Right? He might feel it as he moves out and gets back, and eventually, like a minute and a half, says, I've only got 1 relic, where are the rest? Right? But that's when it's snowballed, and it kind of feels infuriating, right? But like, I guess, you know, you're on match point, so you can't say time wasted. You have to just do everything you can. From this position, really, Divine, I honestly, I would advise the stables and just a scout. And oh my, he's not even gonna get the 1 relic, man. Oh, this is getting worse and worse every second that passes. Like, Divine has to come out.
I think he just now realized that B is using all that map control to pick up the relics very quickly. And at this point, it looks like B is going to have most of the relics. Maybe the one to the south could be contested by Divine, but B is going to be more than happy sitting on just 4 of them.
I legit don't think you can contest it at all. I think like the mosh pit that's going to occur, B has so many men at arms, so many crossbows, and Divine, he still has a military school that's pumping spearmen. Like the reason he's doing this isn't because he's bad at the game and doesn't understand matchups. It's because he doesn't know what he's matching up against. So he's still paranoid that there's some sort of cavalry element coming in. We see the whole picture. We know that B is just full infantry.
Even fortified towers coming in from Divine. He's digging so many trenches, multiple layers of walls coming in, defensive towers, yet this game is not necessarily going to be won or lost on a single assault. You feel like this is just a game which, once again, seems to start spiraling out of control for Divine because he's letting B get all that map control, and B, he's gonna go Imperial, KP.
Have you heard of the build? The fast Imperial build, LidaKor? It's 11 minutes in the game. This is a fast Imperial game. Let's ignore the fact it's an Empire War start. It's happening, baby. Istanbul Observatory on the way. And guess how close Divine is to his own tech up?
Yeah, he's very, very far out here. B does have 400 stone in the bank. He's still a little far away from a keep. So there could be a window here for Divine to punish, but army numbers are so close. 5 meter for Divine, only 2 for B though. That could be an edge that Divine could leverage.
Dog, I can't hope him this one. Like, you know what says get the hell out of my mirror? Great bombards. Do you know what's about to appear in this mirror in about a minute's time? Great bombards, baby. The thunderclapping is coming. Tech up has completed. Divine, this needs to be a killing blow. Anything less, and he's done. So marches forward. Villagers are going to have to pull back from the front line. Now, tech up beginning is where you're weakest, right? But we've got to remember, he's got a lot of passive gold, even if you deny the active gold gathering, which is hard to do. It's at the back of the base. Army is mirroring this out right now. Upgrades haven't started to commence. Mangonels on the backside are going to slow this down. B, because he went Tithe Barns first, he hasn't upgraded any unit types. This is still essentially a castle-on-castle engagement. But not for long. Look at this move around the backside. He gets on the Mangonels with just a few units. Heal comes out. The clustered heal. The Mangoes can't finish it off fast enough. Just 2 spearmen here stabbing away at it. The push-in is a bit too strong. B, he is outnumbered, but he's definitely not outgunned.
The Imam healing power is just contributing so much to this fight. You see this backline constantly being healed.
What?
And that's the difference maker between the 2 armies, I feel, KP.
He hasn't got one, right? He lost them early on. He didn't actually reinforce them in the fight. And I agree. 1 Mangonel doesn't kill them fast enough. Then nothing's dying. B's done it. Like, Divine, you can't play from this position anymore. He's going to be forced to retreat. Then the tech advantage is going to come out. You already see that great bombard being queued. Just a clean execution from B and Divine. Man, I hope he takes a lesson from this game and this series. Like, what he done in game 3 is exactly what I want to see more of. He was the aggressor. He set the pace. But in these mirrors especially, he's just kind of sat there, right? He's been petrified by the threat of just a small advantage being given over and ends up giving a big advantage now twice in mirrors.
Yeah, that's just looking rough for Divine. He has had a good set here, but you really could see that deficiency of playing a little too defensive against a player that was willing to take an initiative. Every single game that B has won, it was built off the fact that Divine played very defensive, respected his opponent, but B exploited this to gain map control and just snowball the game out of control.
Yeah, I mean, you know, mirrors, small differences, right? But, like, I genuinely don't think it was a small difference. I think scouting and a focus on trying to get ahead were big differences here. Because, like, B, the way he's played this series, it's like, okay, how do I get a bit more out of this? Game 3, whatever. Like, I don't even want to discuss that. It's me mature to the maximum. But every other game, it's like B, there's that method to the madness. Even when it gets a bit crazy, a bit chaotic, it's like, what am I doing? How am I getting something out of it? Divine is like he's kind of playing your classic, what's the word I'm looking for? shown on stage Age of Empires 4, where 200 and 200 clash, and there's already 50-50 odds of who takes the win. B's not going to give you those 50-50 odds.
Yep, that is exactly it. B has just quietly built up a lead here off the back of the relics. You see, eco count is still identical, but the relic count is what is propelling B to an Imperial Age. And that is exactly the edge that he was looking for. Relics that were basically uncontested by Divine.
And here comes the Janissary ambush, right? Like, the upgrades aren't fully in for B's army yet. He's been a bit slow on that because the gold's been going elsewhere, but it's double Great Bombard. Such an uphill battle. They're so tanky that even though Divine's got 7 Springles in total, I still favor 2 Bombards. Am I crazy? Or is that accurate?
Well, we might see very soon, I guess, because it looks like finally B is moving out. Janissaries on both sides, but imp upgrades are now in for B. Great Bombards lagging behind a little, but he is still taking this fight over here. Eats a big mangonel shot on the crossbows, but once again, combat healing coming in strong for B.
Here comes the Great Bombard, though. It's party time, B. Gonna deploy it. They got a little bit too close here, though. Oh my god, that slow reaction. Gets it away. Remember, they do get healed by the imam, so gonna have to retreat a little bit. There's a second Bombard elsewhere. It's coming from the north side of the tree line. These Springles are fairly clustered. So we'll start to snipe out. Actually, it takes out infantry instead of the siege. Divine, he did garrison the siege, so he has the extra attack speed now. See, splitting up a little bit, but now that Great Bombards are here, you just can't deny it anymore. The Springles, like, you have to get so close that there's no one to defend you. It's gonna be a retreat.
Yeah. The first Great Bombard retreating pulled a lot of Springles to the front, so many of those men-at-arms got some valuable hits on them. Many of the Springles fell as they pushed forward, and now there is just no front line protecting those Springles. Multiple Great Bombards rolling out, 2 already on the field, 2 more in queue, and it's just mass Janissaries and crossbows for B. Population is looking even, but the quality of the army is just so much better for B now.
Yeah, if only Divine, when he made that initial push in, when Imp got hit, if he had an Imam there, like, that's what I'm thinking about. That was maybe his one opportunity. But now that we're at this point, I mean, bar B missed microing to the extent that he runs his Great Bombards into the Springalds, it does feel impossible to lose from this position. And this tech up from Divine, think about how close B came to the ultimate punishment with his tech up, right? Didn't seem that close. But Divine's position with this tech up, the moment B sees it ticks, you're going to see him full Divide dive this.
Yeah, this is just a risky call for Divine. It's not like he has a choice, but this is a terrible time to go into Imperial under so much pressure. And when that Imperial Age hits, B knows that he has to go.
Bombards have to back up a little bit. Springles do get the initial snipe here. Return fire, but Great Bombards remain in range, so B gets caught out of position here, Divine. The problem, however, most of his military is into siege. It's going to push B away from the moment. Still, his army comp isn't desirable long-term here.
Yeah, nice fight by Divine. He has gotten some valuable picks on the Great Bombards. Problem is that you have 2 more coming up, and it looks like we might have gold issues here soon for Divine. The large gold mine to the south has been denied, the one to the north. There is also a keep on it. And while you have 1200 gold per minute right now for Divine, sustainability is near non-existent with how close that gold mine it is to being depleted.
Yes. And that's going to be a big issue as this kind of slugs out for maybe another 5 minutes, because if B has all that gold, tier 3 blacksmith upgrades will be a kick in the teeth. Now, Divine has done a great job with this mass siege, but keep in mind his comp, like, if at any stage B just drops a few stables, he kills. Because there's no Janissaries, there's no spears, there's no real protection against just, like, 10 Sipahi running in here. So that's someone I want to keep an eye out for. I'd love to see B just make that switch. And I did just see a knight be produced, so he might be on the horizon for exactly that.
Could just be mass men-at-arms at this point. You see, he has 23 on the field, 14 queued up, and as much as Divine has the counter to them in the form of crossbows, it's a little deceiving, I feel. The men-at-arms can dive, take out many of the siege weapons, and then the Janissaries and the crossbows do the rest.
Yeah, and it's like crossbows are meant to counter men-at-arms, but like with this comp, you have to leave the siege behind. You either body it, or you retreat and it gets destroyed, right? And you can't afford to lose that siege, right? That's actually been the one recovery point for Divine. It's like the reason he's able to stop that kill push was unlimited Springles. It's not a long-term solution, though. And I think you're right. This is just turning into an absolute brain-dead men-at-arms spam. 20 minutes into the game, which for Empire Wars is more like 35. Archen. Springal's just trying to reach that back line. Now, Mangonel's not going to do much work against these bad boys, and the men-at-arms are in. The bait of the Great Bombard. They move forward with the Springals, but now he's going to lose all of them. Divine, a little bit slow to react. That has to surely be the killing blow here, right? Like, behind this, I don't see how you easily rebuild. He has 100 gold a minute. This siege is his world.
And it is going down, KP. All the siege now gone, down to 16 military population. He's completely out of gold. Out of gold, out of this game, out of this set. B secures this series 3-1.
Whew, dominant in the mirrors. We won't talk about the English game. B, outside that game 3, I mean, it was pretty solid, pretty clean. Game 1, 2, and 4 here. Now, of course, it is a group stage. No one's going to get eliminated from this, but I'm hoping Divine at least takes the lessons early on. He's still got a nice long group stage ahead of him. I want to see some deviations. I want to see some more playing to win instead of playing to survive, because for me, these mirrors especially choose someone that was playing to survive.